Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going good. We have so much to cover this week. We have some really big news, but as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So we have some really exciting stuff going on in our HTS ecosystem. We have a couple Oracle providers that have just been added, and I know that was something that our ecosystem was missing, so people are going to be excited about that. But of course, the big news this week is we have an additional council member in BitGo joining. Now, the pace at which we're adding additional council members has been blistering in 2024. It's really been unprecedented. We had in the very beginning of 2019, we had the first tranche, so we had 5 come out then. Right before open access, we had an additional 3 that were added. But since then, it's just been, one every couple months or at most one every month. In January of 2024, of course, we added Hitachi. Just 2 weeks ago, we added Mondelez, so that was a huge one. And then here, just 2 weeks later, we're adding BitGo. Now, to give you some information about BitGo, they operate in 50 countries. They have over 1,500 institutional clients. Now, their clients include Fortune 100 brands, over 200 crypto exchanges, governments, regulators, hedge funds, asset managers, market makers, pension funds, and even high net worth individuals. When doing some research, one of the things that jumped out at me is BitGo is actually the custodian for some of the larger Bitcoin ETFs that launched just last month and has been a huge news source over the past couple weeks. Now, even though BitGo might not be as big as some of our council members, they aren't small. Their valuation was at about $1.5 billion in their last funding round, and that was just last year. And we have a quote from the CEO and co-founder of BitGo. He said, "There's immense value in a diversity of purpose-driven networks, which is why we remain steadfast in our support of Hedera as a network that will push the boundaries of use cases, product development, and performance limits. BitGo has played a leading role in Web3 since its inception, so we recognize that it takes many participants to come together and drive real change. We see significant opportunities for future product development with Hedera through our involvement with the Hedera Council, especially in the context of real-world tokenization, settlement, and payment verticals." Now, BitGo's products fall into 3 main categories: securing assets, so hot wallets, custodial wallets, and self-managed cold wallets. Next is capital deployment, so lending, borrowing, trading, staking, and DeFi. And finally, they provide core infrastructure for companies, builders, and developers. From what I've heard, one of the main reasons the council approved their addition is because they have a very pro-Hedera agenda, and considering the list of services we just covered, the possibilities are really endless, and the implications really can't be overstated. So, Zep, I have a quick clip about BitGo, and after that, we'll come back and discuss.
Since 2013, institutions have trusted BitGo for their digital asset needs. Backed by Goldman Sachs and other top investors, BitGo brings together the best of Wall Street and Silicon Valley to deliver institutional-grade security, compliance, and financial services. Today, we support all major coins and blockchain protocols and process 20% of all on-chain Bitcoin transaction volume for over 1,500 of the world's top institutions. When it comes to crypto, institutions trust BitGo.
So, Zep, the one thing that jumped out to me in that clip is Goldman Sachs is one of their backers. And of course, they are the gold standard when it comes to traditional finance. So having them as a backer is huge to me. And I'm sure it's impressive for everybody else as well. But do you have any thoughts when it comes to BitGo?
Yeah, I think what I find particularly exciting is that we have a new Web3 native council member. The council that we have, of course, consists of some of the largest organizations in the world, but they're not Web3 professionals. They are at the Web2 intersection trying to get into the world of Web3. And I think to have the guidance of another council member like BitGo, who works with some of the largest institutions in the world, with the Valkyrie ETF as the leading custody solution alongside, Coinbase, to have that level of expertise to be able to guide, our big banks into the world of payments. They mentioned that payment verticals, settlement, real world assets, 3 big focuses they're going to be looking at. To have them guiding our existing council members is what I'd love to see to give them that expertise, to give that safety as a custody solution, and really, really help these guys enter and execute in Web3 as flawlessly as possible. So I think the more Web3 council members we have across certain verticals, this one's custody, Chainlink, of course, is Oracle's, and if we can get any more across another Web3 vertical in the future, I think I'd really, really love to see that. So yeah, having that level of Web3 expertise, I think, whilst they don't have, $100 billion valuation, I think that level of expertise almost outweighs that in many senses in this case.
Yeah, great points. Now, Zenobia in A Gossip About Gossip did do a really good job of covering the addition of BitGo. I did grab some highlights, but you should go watch the entire thing. But in the meantime, we'll cover those highlights.
You have been working with Hedera and the various members of the ecosystem for some time. But again, I think a lot of your work happens behind the scenes. So can you share with us how that relationship has evolved over the last few years?
I think as all of our relationships with foundations and L1 start, it begins with support of the token or the chain in BitGo custody and wallets. And what that means is anyone building on BitGo, again, exchange and application and enterprise, the moment BitGo supports Hedera, then anyone else who offers what they do or builds on what they do using BitGo can then offer Hedera to their client base. And so that relationship goes back several years at this point. We are happily working with the foundation to not only support custody of the tokens, but we're also building some cool stuff now. We're looking at some staking. We're looking at some things related to tokenization. We custody several billion units of Hedera today, or we're looking to help grow that as we grow the ecosystem together.
Fantastic. And so along this journey, what made you decide, we need to be a part of this governing council? We need to, have input. We need to participate in governance, all the things that come along with being a council member.
I'll be honest. Hedera's been on radar for quite some time, right? In my day-to-day, we speak to a lot of ecosystem participants just because our product surface area, as you can imagine, is pretty broad. So we talked to a lot of players. Hedera has come up consistently in the realm of, let's say, real estate tokenization or social networks or even payments. To be honest, I don't think we ever thought about joining the council because we didn't think we would be able to get a seat because we saw who was on that council. And we're like, well, we're a small player, even though we're pretty spread out and plugged into the crypto ecosystem. We're not some of these Fortune 100s out there. But when the opportunity came, the potential presented itself through Schroll's Labs that we might be able to contribute. We got really excited about that. Our goal as a company is to deliver trust in digital assets. And, as an infrastructure player, our goal, frankly, is to grow the size of the pie. We also believe in the proliferation of both crypto as well as DLT in enterprise. And so if we thought, hey, if we got a chance to be on this council and help in the ways that matter that can grow the size of this pie, we would jump at the chance. Those of us in the go-to-market capacity are also really interested in exploring different things like use cases for technology that's already been built. We actually think that the number of institutions and entities and businesses that should be using Hedera but are not, there's a delta, right? We think there's opportunity for our clients and potential clients to be using Hedera in really creative ways. And over the last several months, we've been obviously paying more attention to the ecosystem, looking at some of the really cool projects out there, and we're getting really excited. We're just beginning to scratch the surface here.
So Zep, I'm really excited to see what BitGo comes out with. I loved hearing that delta that he mentioned. He mentioned the fact that there's a lot of enterprises should be using Hedera, but aren't at this point, and BitGo is going to help facilitate that. So that's going to be fun to watch. We're going to change gears here a little bit. We're going to get into our HTS ecosystem, but first I want to talk a little bit about the broader crypto space. Of course, Bitcoin made new local all-time highs that we hadn't seen since 2021. one, probably mostly being driven by the ETFs. Now, I put a tweet out about this and there was some confusion there. Like, well, the people that are buying the ETFs, that's not going to flow into the rest of the crypto market, into alts like HBAR. That's not true. I don't think that's true. And here's the reason. The ETFs are the buyers. So the buyers put the capital in. That capital is actually going mainly onto Coinbase, buying those Bitcoin to hold in custody for those ETFs. And then the capital from that goes into those previous Bitcoin holders. Now, those are mostly crypto native people. They're going to be looking for someplace else to deploy that capital. It's probably going to be the large altcoins first. So you have the Solanas and the Ethereums of the world, and that's going to work its way down into the mid caps like HBAR. Now, HBAR had a good move last week, so it's taking a little bit of a pause, but it is holding on to its gains, and it's actually drifted up slightly over the past week, helped out by some of this other stuff that's going on in the crypto market. But our HTS ecosystem is doing pretty darn well. We have Sauce and Dovu. They're making new all-time highs. I think Sauce is over 20 cents at this point. That's about a 20x off its lows. Dovu's about the same, about 20x off its lows. We've seen Karate Combat. Now the token has been kind of taking a break. It had a huge run up before, and it's taking a little bit of a break now. But from the fundamentals of the Karate Combat league and business, they're doing a fantastic job. They had Karate Combat 44. There was plenty of buzz about that. And before I get into some of the metrics around that, I wanted to get your take, because you're focused on the social media aspect of things. And of course, they had their Influencers Fight Club that followed the regular fights in Karate Combat 44. What were your thoughts around what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I saw every large possible influencer that exists on CT, i.e. crypto Twitter, covering the fights. You know, irregardless if they knew it was directly built on Hedera, they were resharing imagery of the Hedera logo again and again and again and again, talking about the Karate token, which of course is built on Hedera. And I just, you can see the trajectory now of the usage, of the app in Karate Combat, but that now the eyes of CT really are on here. And I think the Influencer Fight Club really will play a massive part of Karate Combat's success in the world of Web3. We've got the news of consensus. Karate Combat's going to be at consensus. If they again have that Influencer Fight Club, I've seen Ben Armstrong, BitBoy, who was the figurehead of the last one, saying again that he wants to fight there. And I mean, if you have the whole of consensus there, where, the big dogs are, you've got to pay a lot of money to get these tickets. You're there for networking. You're there as a higher level user in Web3 to many degrees in terms of what capital you're going to be allocating and so on. And I really think that, this is the perfect trajectory for sort of mass adoption on a Web3 application like Karate Combat. And if they know it's on Hedera, doesn't really matter. They're going to be using the app, going to be buying the token. And I think, I was seeing, people commenting, HBAR is the fight coin. This is the most entertaining application in Web3. This is how we can settle all these crypto Twitter beefs and so on. So it really, really looks like this is going to take and continue to take crypto Twitter by storm, and we're only going to see more and more of these influencers covering. And of course, the Trojan horse there is Hedera. So really, really excited by the amount of pickup at the last events, and I have no doubt that will continue as we go into consensus and beyond.
And Zep, your sentiment is echoed in what we're seeing in the data. Just looking at the number of unique players for Karate Combat, we had nearly 40,000 people playing up-only gaming for Karate Combat in the last event, Karate Combat 44. Now, the event before that, Kickback 1, we heard Only LARPing. He is one of the founders. He said that there might have been some double counting, so we might see a little bit of a pullback in the trajectory. But if you consider that, we're going pretty much exponential here, and it's just continuing to go almost straight up. The amount of karate played has also gone up significantly. It was up 31% month over month between those two events. And the thing that they're really happy about is the lack of churn. So after the second event of somebody participating in up-only gaming, pretty much everybody sticks with the app. They continue to do it. And this is beyond pretty much everyone's expectations. And one of my favorite metrics is we know there's two versions of the Karate token. There's the Ethereum version, and the Ethereum version's mainly over there to bring liquidity into the space. And we do have fairly good liquidity on Uniswap for karate. But as far as the utility, 99.5% of the karate played was the Hedera version through their app. And as you mentioned, I can't wait for the event down at Consensus, one of the largest crypto events in the world. And we're going to have Karate Combat is probably the hottest ticket in town. But we don't want to look past the next event. They're going to be in Dubai for the next event. So I can't imagine that being a small card either. But they're doing all the right things. The next time we do have those influencers fighting is going to be at Consensus. So it's pretty much lining up perfectly. So exciting all around. And Zep, just sticking with our HTS tokens, I do want to talk about the Earthlings airdrop. They had more success than they could have imagined. They had over 27,000 accounts associate the 3 tokens that were necessary to get the HBAR weighted airdrop. So Zep, they had 343 million HBAR that participated in this airdrop. And this is just the beginning. So there was 3 tokens that you had to associate. You had to do the NFT, the bag holder NFT, the Steam, and the PH Steam. So again, 343 million HBAR participated in that. Now, if you haven't done it to this point, or if you didn't associate them all, if there was some kind of an issue, you haven't missed out. This first drop is 2 million PH Steam. Now, it accounts for about, I think, 0.05 PH Steam per HBAR that was allocated. That's already a big number. That's going to be a fair amount going to some of our HBAR holders out there. But this is the smallest of the 4 airdrops. 2 million are going out in this one. I believe the next one next month is going to be 3 million. The one after that is going to be 4. And then the last one they do is going to be 6. So they want to certainly get more people participating in this. So this is just the beginning. The next thing I wanted to touch on is again with Earthlings. They wanted to give people something to do with this PH Steam. There aren't any liquidity pools yet, so you can't sell them or anything like that. Not that we want people selling these airdrops. We want people to have diamond hands to respect these airdrops, so other teams are incentivized to do the same thing. But they wanted to give people something to do. So SentX, our premier NFT marketplace, has started to do something really interesting, and they started with PH Steam. They're allowing you not only to buy the NFTs with HBAR, which they've always done, but they're allowing you to buy some of the Earthlings NFTs with PH Steam. And this is just the beginning as well, because they're going to allow that for other HTS tokens. So you're going to see, SAUCE being used or USDC and so forth. So it's just going to make the HBAR economy that much more interesting, starting with SentX with this really cool little innovation that they've started. Sticking with some of the gaming stuff that we have going on, of course, Earthlings is one of our premier games, but we had some news come out around NeoTokyo and Dropper. Dropper's a team that's been with us for a while. Can you give us some more information on that?
Yeah, so Eric, who is the founder of Dropper, he was a citizen of something called NeoTokyo, which is the Web3 industry's largest cohort of gaming founders and investors. A lot of the success of Avalanche GameFi in terms of their token valuations and sort of developer activity and usage there has come from figures like Alex Becker, who's a massive gaming influencer, who actually set up NeoTokyo. So they do a lot of early seed round investing in the Avalanche ecosystem, Solana, so on and so forth. They sort of bring liquidity to project, bring developers to ecosystems, and really help turbocharge that GameFi ecosystem. And so Eric was a part of that. He managed to forge these relations with NeoTokyo for Dropper for a new ecosystem development fund to bring in developers from that very vibrant GameFi community and bring them into Hedera and incentivize them through their own sort of grant program that they'll be managing. So in terms of, I think, the long-term impact of having what are, some very high-quality game developers alongside that ability for that highly liquid token allocation or, early investment in these projects is a really, really exciting prospect for GameFi on Hedera. We'll be following that very acutely. I know that Alex Russman will be working closely alongside Eric, and I'm really hopeful that we'll get some great projects out of it.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Now, another team that I want to mention before we move on from Hedera Gaming is Legends of the Past. We know that they're going to be coming out with a mobile game here before too long. They've already dropped their Clio token, and they mentioned this past week that they've added some utility to that token. So definitely go check out their X account because they have some more information on that. We're looking forward to what's going to come out. All right, so the next thing we have, I know I promised to have Kamal from the Hashgraph Association on to talk about that Saudi investment. He has a long history within Hedera, so it was a really interesting conversation. So let's check it out. Kamal, this is the first time we've had you on, and in fact, today is the first time we've spoken, so welcome.
Thank you, Brendan, and thank you very much for inviting me and hosting me in this session. It's much appreciated.
Well, I've been trying to get you on for a while, so I certainly appreciate it myself. To kick things off, Kamal, you've had a great history with Hedera to this point. Can you share that journey with our audience who may be newer to the network?
Yes, indeed. So my journey with Hedera Hashgraph actually goes back to 2017 when I first started working and engaging with Hedera Hashgraph executives. Back at the time, they used to operate under Swirls Inc. Company to identify viable use cases, co-develop enterprise-grade applications, and also deploy enterprise-grade decentralized solutions. In the spring of 2018, we had a vision of creating a governing council, basically a group of up to 39 highly diversified global trusted organizations to steer the development and govern the stability of Hedera network. And back at the time, for a public protocol in the DLT space, that was something unique. So a few months later, it was actually in September 2018, we all got together in New York and we founded Hedera Governing Council. And I'm proud of being one of its founding partners. And I feel honored to be part of the initial Governing Council members, including Swisscom, the organization that I represented, Deutsche Telekom, Litepaper, Magalu, and Bank Nomura. So if you look at it, these organizations, actually top organizations, have taken a big step with Hedera and together enabled the third generation public ledger, which combines both decentralization and governance, which was and still very much needed for DLT mainstream adoption.
So we have one of the original council member representatives here with us today. Now, you've moved on now and you're with the Hashgraph Association, one of the founders there. Can you tell us about the origins of the Hashgraph Association? What did that look like?
Certainly. So back, when was it? It was end of 2020, early 2021. That was when I reached out to the Governing Council and also to the Hedera executive team. I first presented the idea of establishing something I used to call the Innovation Hub for Hedera Hashgraph out of Switzerland to support the broad adoption of Hedera network in line with the core values of the Governing Council and also in line with the strategic directions of Hedera LLC. I received massive support from Hedera leadership team. The council welcomed the idea to establish the Hashgraph Association as an independent organization with a global mandate to help organizations succeed at the human side of their Web3 strategy, and also bring the relevant components and elements together, namely people, business, and technology. And that's how the Hashgraph Association started back in 2021.
Well, we already see you're having a lot of success. Can you tell us about your philosophy and strategy at the association?
Indeed. The Hashgraph Association, as I mentioned earlier on, has been founded with the mission to proactively empower Hedera Hashgraph community, drive the broad adoption of Hedera at a global scale, support Hedera powered projects and initiatives, and last but not least, to confirm the commitment of Hedera towards building or enabling the build-up of a vibrant ecosystem for the LT transformations around the globe, while positioning and leveraging Hedera Hashgraph capabilities. So we at THA, we aim at achieving these through highly effective enablement and empowerment programs, starting with professional trainings, certification programs, all the way up to innovation programs, entrepreneurship programs, and venture builder programs across several industries, while focusing on developing the necessary organizational competencies and engagements strategies with top and leading organizations, be it technology partners, system integrators, management consulting firms, academic institutions, universities, and other Fortune organizations, basically potential council members, or other comparable organizations that we would like to work with. The Hashgraph Association addresses the needs for individuals, startups, small and mid-sized enterprises, all the way up to potential council members and leading organizations around the globe. So in this context, the HashGraph Association takes a pragmatic approach that combines left brain technology skills with right brain innovative thinking, basically merging the business acumen with the technology expertise to accelerate the transition from an innovative business idea to a successfully deployed Hedera-enabled solution. So therefore, if you look at our enablement and empowerment programs, they are all structured around 5 core building blocks to drive the technology adoption and ensure the successful deployment of impactful projects and use cases. So these 5 key building blocks are centered around, number 1, education, innovation, transformation, incubation, and acceleration. So in doing so, the HashGraph Association and its team support with effective screening, evaluation, monitoring, and implementation of qualified and onboarded projects within our enablement and empowerment programs. Our strategic goals can be summarized as follows. Number 1, education. Meaning equipping Hedera HashGraph community with the functional and technical know-how to design, develop, and deploy innovative applications and viable decentralized solutions. Number 2, funding, basically deploying resources to achieve long-term success and sustain transformational impact. And last but not least is cross-pollination, basically fostering business growth and promoting collaboration within Hedera ecosystem, be it amongst our sister organizations such as THF World Labs, or amongst our grantees, be it at enterprise level or at startup level. So for this reason, you will see the HashGraph Association always focused on launching strategic initiatives with the highest potential, and you would see also the HashGraph Association prioritizing the development of the most impactful projects, offering sizable investments combined with hands-on support functions to empower pioneers, innovators, entrepreneurs, and startups, as well as assisting large corporations and government institutions to successfully launch their own decentralized solutions and applications while leveraging Hedera HashGraph capabilities.
Well, you're gaining tremendous traction in trying to meet those goals. Now, the second bullet point you had there was funding, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. We'd love to know everything about the investment fund you're starting with the Saudis. Can you explain that to us?
Indeed. So we recently have signed with Ministry of Investment in Saudi Arabia. So in a summary, the HashGraph Association, in partnership with the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia, and also in collaboration with regional institutional investors, as well as with local business partners, we have partnered to launch something that we call the HashGraph Deep Tech Venture Studio. The mission of the HashGraph Deep Tech Venture Studio is to further enhance business dynamics, boost the professional environment, and support and enable local talent to build on Hedera HashGraph. So in a summary, the Venture Studio, or the HashGraph Deep Tech Venture Studio, will drive the build-up and deployment of more successful projects, support innovative startups, and foster the settlement of Hedera-powered companies within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and in a second step, help these companies to expand into the GCC region, basically Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Emirates, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the Sultanate of Oman. So in this context, the Deep Tech Venture Studio targets to invest in early stage startups all the way up to SMEs, small and mid-sized enterprises, across different industries, including real estate, healthcare, banking, finance, energy, oil and gas, etc. And as I mentioned earlier on, we do provide a 5-year program, or we will be structuring that over 5 years. So the second step would be then to support all the qualified and onboarded startups in taking their business to the next level by supporting them, for example, to be listed on the Saudi Stock Exchange, Tadawul, and also the listing on other global stock exchanges. So in a summary, that program is worth of $250 million, where the Hashgraph Association committed to secure 20%, basically $15 million in cash, but also in containing in-kind services, while the Ministry of Investment in Saudi Arabia, in partnership with other institutional investors and local business partners, will source 80%, namely $200 million, to be deployed through the Deep Tech Venture Studio out of Saudi Arabia. So the goal in general is to offer a variety of support functions, including sizable investments to attract pioneers, innovators, entrepreneurs, to help lead the development of a vibrant ecosystem for Web3 business within the kingdom, while positioning Hedera Hashgraph as the underlying ledger for Web3 projects and initiatives out of the region.
Well, Kamal, I'd like to expand on this a little bit, and it's one thing that I'm interested in particular. A lot of what's been built within the Hedera ecosystem has been done with the HBAR treasury. Here we have outside capital coming in to build within our ecosystem. Can you just kind of expand on the importance of that, bringing some of this outside capital within our ecosystem?
Indeed. We have been discussing this a lot within THE leadership team and also coordinating with Hedera LLC. What is the most sustainable model to establish a vibrant ecosystem for Hedera powered projects, and also ensure a long-term partnerships for our entrepreneurs, startups, and also enterprises that are building Hedera Hashgraph. And one of the key outcomes that we have decided within THE team is we certainly need to tap into the institutional investors to provide an outlook for our grantees and our startups that we have supported. Basically, our mission within the Hashgraph Association, as I mentioned earlier on, is number one is to empower, enable, secure an initial funding to start your business by leveraging Hedera Hashgraph. And for scale-up funding, we within the Hashgraph Association, we do believe in partnering with third parties by opening the doors for third parties investors, be it family offices, ultra high net worth individuals, investment funds, or even launching strategic partnerships and investment agreements with sovereign wealth funds out of the Middle East, in Europe, or in Africa, to ensure that continuity for our qualified and our investees, let's say, within Hedera ecosystem.
No, Kamal, that is music to our ears. Is there anything else you'd like to? It is. I mean, that's exactly what we need.
That's actually the mission of the Hashgraph Association. So we are here to help. We are here to support, and that's the mandate that we have received from Hedera Hashgraph to support globally, open the doors, position all the startups and the businesses that are building on Hedera Hashgraph. Number one, to cross-pollinate, basically try to position them within Hedera ecosystem, but also position them in front of potential investors and also in emerging markets, so that we can together help grow Hedera ecosystem. If you guys win, Hedera wins and THE will win. So that's the philosophy that we have within our organization.
That's perfect. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on to the Hedera community?
No, I mean, in general, what I wanted to see, or the key message is, the Hashgraph Association is working and has already begun the implementation of several strategic initiatives that include venture building programs, innovation and entrepreneurship programs, and also other complementary activities such as professional development and learning programs, as I mentioned, to enhance the professional environment for Hedera community and Hedera community developers. Why we are doing so, as I mentioned, or how are we doing so? Number one, as I mentioned, is to tap into institutional investors, create new business opportunities in different, or let's say, in strategic regions out of key jurisdictions. And last but not least, is to maintain the positive momentum that we are witnessing within Hedera global ecosystem. Hence, me as Kamal, as the president of the Hashgraph Association, I recommend Hedera community to follow THA social media, especially its LinkedIn page, and to get exclusive news and updates about our enablement and empowerment programs across the globe, and also to apply for our online trainings and certification programs, because these certificates will be an important criteria to qualify for our Venture Builder program, and also to benefit from our global ecosystem development activities. So with that being said, thank you, Brandon, and I look forward to the next session with you and also with Hedera community. Thanks a lot.
Well, you and the Hashgraph Association have done a great job to this point. We're certainly pulling for you. Thanks for coming on today, and good luck.
Thank you, Brandon. It's much appreciated.
So, great to hear from Kamal there. He's, a massive force for business development within the Hedera ecosystem, clearly. $250 million. I don't think that can be overstated, right? It's a massive amount of capital which is coming in, 200 million of which is coming from the Ministry of Investment in Saudi Arabia, which of course is a massive vote of confidence of the capabilities of Hedera in this sort of industry 4.0. So I'm very excited to see the startups that will come out of that, and no doubt a lot of them will be in the world of real world assets. And to that point, we saw Shayne Higdon was in an event at Texas this week, the CEO of the HBAR Foundation, with Redswan, who are another big team in the ecosystem when it comes to real-world asset tokenization. I think they've actually got a multi-billion dollar portfolio there. So really excited to see Shayne rubbing shoulders with a really strong ecosystem partner there, putting them on stage in Texas. I'm sure we'll learn more about that portfolio in the future.
I love the team from Redswan. They're doing amazing things, and I always enjoy the conversations that I have with them when they come on. But the other big news we had this week was around oracles. It's something that the community, especially the community of builders, has been asking for a long time, and we've gotten some of the best oracle providers to announce that they're going to be working with Hedera this past week. So we had Pyth and we had Supra both announced. Pyth on Monday, and then we had Supra on Thursday. This is going to be huge for our DeFi ecosystem, especially for lending, but it's going to be across the board. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. I'd like to talk a little bit more about it, but before we get to that, I do have a clip from Pyth that might be able to explain some of what's going on.
What makes a smart contract smart? Is it the way it's written? Well, sort of. What makes a smart contract smart is the quality of the data you feed it. And yet, much of the real-world data that blockchain applications use, whether it's cryptocurrency, stocks or commodity prices, come from third-party aggregators who are themselves dependent on another source for information. If the data they receive is flawed or a second too slow, well, you know what can happen, because we've seen it happen before. For DeFi to reach its full potential, serving billions of people and securing trillions of dollars, it needs highly reliable, latency-sensitive data of the highest fidelity. It needs a solution custom-built for the future of Web3. Pyth Network is that solution. Pyth is a data oracle designed to meet the security, accuracy, and scalability needs of DeFi. It sources its data from more than 80 world-class market participants, including exchanges, market makers, and financial services providers. This ensures the highest degree of data accuracy and reliability. Pyth also updates its data every 400 milliseconds. This ensures that time-sensitive quotes are delivered in real time. It is also the only oracle to provide confidence intervals, which represent price uncertainty estimates across markets at any given time, so that users and platforms can make the best decisions. This ensures confidence. Ultimately, that's what Pyth provides. The confidence that in a world where you are only as good as your data, you have access to the highest fidelity and time-sensitive data on-chain. That's why Pyth is the fastest growing financial oracle across DeFi, serving more than 100 applications across Layer 1 and Layer 2 blockchains and supporting billions in trading volume for users globally. So don't be pretty confident about your data. Be Pyth confident.
So what I find really exciting about, the introduction of oracles and the prospect of lending is that the DeFi ecosystem on Hedera has reached a pretty substantial TVL, total value locked, with only one major component of DeFi i.e. decentralized exchanges. Lending is arguably as big, if not bigger, than many of the decentralized exchange markets. As we've seen with the likes of Solana and last bull run with Phantom, they had a massive rise to fame through that. So I think for us to now have that competition coming down the line, we know we've got lending solutions inbound. I think that's really going to be a great bolster to our ecosystem, enabling people to leverage the efficiencies of the hash graph for a new solution and hopefully bring in new users to test that out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as we get some of these new tools online. Now, you can't talk about DeFi without talking about Hashpack, and they gave us some details on their pack token, so I want to jump into that. So the Genesis pack allocation, so the initial allocation of their tokens is going to be 20% of the total supply, or 200 million total tokens. 20 million of those tokens is going to be for liquidity. 160 million is going to be for the community, and that is going to include an NFT sale. We have 6 million for marketing, 6 million for operations, and then 8 million for core development. So Zeb, we don't have all the information on exactly what Hashpack is going to do quite yet. That 16% for the community, of course, part of that is the sale, but I'm sure they're going to come out with some really innovative things to do there. They also have an additional 800 million tokens. This is just the first 20% that's going to be coming out. There's going to be an additional 800 million tokens that I'm sure Hashpack, because their execution is usually pretty flawless, I'm sure they're going to come out with some really innovative ways to use these tokens. All right, so we're going to shift gears here a little bit to one of our other really talented builders, and that's Neuron. What do we hear about Neuron this week?
Yeah, so Neuron got new funding as a grant from the UK government as part of their work with the Milton Keynes Council, which is a pretty big city in the UK. And so they're going to be working with Milton Keynes to implement, as I understand, their own network sensors, which will be, of course, be a part of the Neuron network. So whether or not these sensors will be rewarded in the token in the same way the hotspots will that the community can run, I'm not sure. But it's great to see a council, i.e. one of the mechanisms of local government that implement infrastructure upgrades, are also going to be part of the Neuron network. So just great for that expansion across the UK, and they really seem to be accelerating that as we go along.
So we just highlighted two of our really great builders, and of course we've mentioned several of our great builders throughout the show, and the home for collaboration in the Hedera ecosystem is the HBAR Foundry. They have meetings every Monday and Friday, so if you're a builder in the space and aren't attending those meetings, you really need to participate. One of the new things that they've been doing is these town halls. They've had some great guests on. They had 3 guests on this past one. They had Sushil from Drop. They had Patricia from SentX, which we've talked about. And of course, Solo from Galaxy. And they talked about all kinds of things. I grabbed a few highlights around why these different teams decided to build on Hedera. So let's check that out.
Okay, so the why. Sam was doing the art collections and minting on Ashhexes at the time. It was his first minting platform. But then he decided to create a platform just to launch and mint his own collections. It was not supposed to be a launchpad for other projects at that point, but it worked really well. And I believe that the fact that we can pinpoint the why is the fact that we have a dev that is so connected and in love with the Hedera ecosystem. Sam says a lot, he would never build on anywhere else because there's no other network that would allow him to do everything that he does on Hedera. And this is essentially the why, because he started, he knew about Hedera. He started investigating to mint his own collections. And then he saw, okay, this allows me to do so many things. Now I want to build more. I want to showcase everything that the network has to offer. And this was what brought SentX as it is today to life, in fact, because it was the fact that we can add so many things to the platform because the network is there for us to utilize, that doing a platform with just a couple of features makes no sense for the type of network that we have, because our users, and this space is devoted to the users, our users want more. They want to be able to do bulk listings. They don't want to be listing one NFT one by one. They want to grab 10 NFTs, 20 NFTs and list them all. And we can do all of this. For example, we had a little issue a few weeks ago actually started a few months ago with Depradar. Depradar was not picking up the volume from Hedera correctly. And the reason why it was not doing this is because since our marketplace has 95% of the volume, they were not being able to capture our volume because they don't use bulk actions yet as a metric. And since we have bulk actions, they couldn't pick our volume. And in days where we had, for example, $15,000 in daily volume, they were showing us at $500, $400, because they couldn't pick everything from our transaction, from our HBAR record. So we had to talk to them. We elaborated what happened, the fact that we had the bulk actions and everything. They were able to fix this. It's not super fixed yet, but at least now we are showing a value that is closer, and it's also good for the Hedera image as well, because it was showing a really low volume for Hedera as a total, because we have 95% of the volume. So right now it's fixed. We were able to work with them, a great team over there as well, and we worked with them to fix this, because this is important, and this is part of the why. We want to showcase the Hedera network. We want to showcase everything that the network has to offer.
The driver behind Drop and the utilization of or usage of Hedera for us was a couple of things. One is the flat, low payment structure that Hedera has. It's an extremely powerful thing because you can predict what the cost is going to be. And with us being a cost-effective platform, we have wanted to make sure that the cost is deterministic and you know what it's going to cost. That was one thing. The second thing that you look for when you build a payment platform is scale, right? You want to transact at a high scale, and especially micro payments, which are small payments but a lot of payments. You need scale, and then the third thing that you need, because the platform is built for the web, is you need instant notification of the payment, right? And all of these three things, if you look at, Hedera just offers out of the box. It's not something that they offer now. They offered that in 2019. It's speed, scale. So in terms of our story about why we built it on Hedera and what was it, Hedera was just asking for it. I mean, it was like a perfect platform, distributed ledger, where we could build this payment platform. One quick thing, one of the other things that you look for when you build a payment platform is you want to reduce the cost of your infrastructure, right? Because that's how you reduce costs. So we are using Hedera as a ledger. I mean, we are working with the banking industry, and they love the fact that we use digital signatures and we use all of that security that Hedera offers, right? But we're using Hedera primarily as a ledger, and that makes a big difference for us. That reduces my cost of my infrastructure.
Thinking about the industry as a whole, right? The tooling that exists here is mainly for people like ourselves, like the people on the call, builders, right? Like there isn't a lot of retail products that, like, if you had a conversation, a mind-blowing conversation, we've all had it, right? We were at a party, we chatted, someone asked you about Bitcoin, they asked you about crypto for the first time, and you gave them the best explanation of your life, right? And they're all excited, they're worked up, they want to get involved, they want to join Web3. The problem is there's a shortage of things to do, practical things to do that people can analog to their normal lives presently, today, with Web3, right? And a lot of that lies in the fact that the tooling and the aspects and the out-of-the-box tools for builders to build end-user experiences haven't quite made it up to snuff comparatively to like the Web2 world. And that's like what Shashil's telling out of the box. And so when you're thinking about building something like Galaxy, it's important that when I buy a video call with LeBron James, it settles instant. It's important that it takes 2 seconds, or if I want to micro tip somebody, 30 cents for some of the content that I'm seeing in the feed because I want to tip them or send the creator a tip or whatever, it needs to be practical to be able to do so. If not, the benefits of this technology are hardly realized. And so when it comes to, why Galaxy chose to build on Hedera, it's definitely that practicality aspect. And then even from a regulatory perspective, coming from the banking world and just seeing how vigilant and forward-looking the governance model that Hedera has associated with this technology. People always talk about the fact that it's asynchronous, Byzantine fault tolerant, it's high throughput. It's all these great things, which, that's great. But there's a lot of scalable blockchains. There's a lot of different things. I think the best, the best part of Hedera's ecosystem is the innovative governance model, right? The corporate, like the council, like that's the essence behind it. And I think the regulatory implications of that are very much so seen now, right? When you're seeing all these different, layer ones being called into question by the authorities that be, you can see that Hedera is taking a lot more of a prudent approach to that. On top of that, I mean, I think you just have great builders within our ecosystem. And I think the community as a whole really supports and gets around these projects. And while we might not be large in size, I think the fact that we're so well orchestrated, or we work together, we're so well coordinated, like I've talked to everybody on this call before. I think because of that, the possibilities are endless for our community. So we might be smaller than some, but mightier than most.
So is that the last one we heard from there was Solo, and he is one of the best representatives for the Hedera community, and he was on a pretty high-profile show. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Solo was on Trade Talks from Nasdaq, which is one of their big platforms for talking about trading and, of course, within that Web3 blockchain crypto. And so Solo seems to be getting pretty consistently these pretty big spots. Of course, that's a testament to him, it's a testament to Galaxy, and I think a strength towards the VC input they've also had, which really brings out the robustness of the Galaxy ecosystem in the sense that they've got these confidence, they've got these people behind them that can help facilitate these kind of conversations. And I think having that support, having that network, and of course having Solo at the helm of that, an incredibly intelligent guy, really puts them in a pole position on the Hedera network for continued innovation going forwards.
No question. Like I said, he's one of the best representatives that we have. All right, so we're going to shift gears here again. Before we get into network analysis, we're going to get into healthcare. Another great representative is Jim Nasser. But what came out around healthcare and the HBAR Foundation this week?
So Jim Nasser, who's a leading figure in the Hedera community since inception, the founder of Acor, he is expanding his work with the HBAR Foundation to move towards healthcare data. And so as we know from some reports that I posted on my Twitter, healthcare data is up to 50 times more valuable than financial data. And because of that, it is rife for things like manipulation and fraud, and now more than ever needs that trust layer, which a DLT can provide. And of course, there's no better ledger to do that than Hedera. So really excited to see Jim, who's a real leader, real thought leader in the intersection of Web3 and healthcare. He got featured on Coinbase, a few months ago. To have him at the helm there with extra resource allocation, I think is really exciting for healthcare data and healthcare tech on Hedera.
Yes, that only good things can happen when you get resources in the hands of somebody like Jim Nasser. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and get into some network analysis. All right, so Hedera is still processing about 1,300 transactions per second for a total of about 750 million transactions over the past week. We saw a spike to over 4,500 transactions per second. We still have time to consensus. Finality is just about 3.4 seconds. We also saw 860,000 smart contract calls just over the past week. Now, account growth still remains strong with 50,000 added over the last week and 70,000 total active accounts. Moving down to our fungible tokens, Wrapped HBAR takes the top spot, followed by the meme coin Unlucky, Sauce, Karate, and USDC. Next up, we have Dovu, Energy Trade Token, HSuite, XSauce, and PH Steam. Now, it looks like there was an issue with the PH Steam value here on Metrica because I confirmed with the team that there were about 30,000 transactions for that token. I don't know if that means only PH Steam is underrepresented or all of the tokens on this list. Rant CPU once again dominates the NFTs with half of the top 10 in terms of transactions. Earthlings bag holders would have taken the top spot, but again, it was underrepresented compared to the true figure of 27,000 transfers. The Saucer Swap liquidity token is up there as well. We see the perennial Not a Slime World NFT and Zero. We also see the Doctor Who Worlds Apart NFT making its first appearance on this list. So, Zeb, any thoughts on NFTs this week?
Yeah, so whoever got into the the private round for DaVinci Graph via their DaVinci NFT passes, they now can collect their token allocation of DaVinci, and I believe it's actually done a 4x off the price of the NFT. So yeah, it's done well. It's done very well. So congratulations to the team there and anyone else who is partaking in that.
Well, that's a good crossover. They're going to be really involved with our DeFi ecosystem. So let's get into some DeFi. Taking a look at DeFi Llama, the total value locked in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem sits at $153 million. 150.5 of that is on SaucerSwap. With that kind of dominant position, I'm going to stick to covering SaucerSwap until a significant competitor pops up. I really hope we start to see H-Suite values, if not on DeFi Llama, on their own site so I can cover them if they start to add significant TVL. Taking a look at the yields on some of SaucerSwap's popular trading pairs, HBAR HBAR-X version 1 is at 7.5%, HBAR Sauce V1 is at 25%, V2 is at 87%. HBAR USDC V1 is at 63%, and version 2 is at an impressive 191%. Granted, on V2, that changes depending on your settings. And finally, HBAR Karate is at a nice 71%. Moving over to the HBAR and crypto markets, Bitcoin is up slightly on the day, but a blistering 21% on the week to $62,000. My thesis that the impact of the ETFs was being underestimated seems to be playing out. I do want to point out how the early phase of a bull market in crypto goes in relation to Bitcoin and altcoins. I'll use Bitcoin and HBAR as an example. So back in 2020, in the 3 months prior to Bitcoin breaking its previous all-time high of $20,000, Bitcoin increased in value 100%. In comparison, HBAR actually fell from 3.4 to under 3 cents. But following that, HBAR actually pulled a 15x over the next few months compared to Bitcoin's 3x. So we can't be surprised if altcoins underperform Bitcoin a little bit in this phase. Now, of course, this past performance may not repeat, but it could rhyme. Only time will tell. Taking a look at HBAR's recent performance, at the time of recording, we're sitting at about 11.5 cents, about flat on the day, but up 4.5% on the week. We should look to 12 cents for resistance, and hopefully we're setting up 11 cents as support. Either way, we certainly have strong support down at 10 cents. All right, Zep, that's pretty much all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, I mean, just a huge week all around, right? You know, we had a new governing council member with BitGo representing Web3, who I hope will turbocharge that sort of Web2 to Web3 transition for our council members. But we also saw a lot on the retail side. You know, we saw Karate Combat absolutely blow up, you know, giving us more marketing engagement and awareness than we've ever really had before. I think, you know, we saw GameFi with Dropper and NeoTokyo, which is, I think, really going to be massive for that GameFi economy. And then, of course, we got the massive news that we now have oracles, and not just one, but two. So it seems that the retail ecosystem on Hedera is really, really priming itself for this bull run. You know, we've got that new infrastructure, we've got that new VC support, developer support, and so on. So really excited. I think we're off to a really good start for what is clearly a much more excited market than, you know, 2 months ago.
Yeah, Zep, I couldn't agree more. I think BitGo is going to be a great partner. I'm really looking forward to some of the use cases they come out with. Going from that macro down to the micro, Earthlings did a great job with their airdrop, and that's only going to continue. And hopefully we're going to have additional teams do those kind of HBAR weighted airdrops. I'm going to get Eric from Dropper on to give us some more information around NeoTokyo. I'm going to get Sam. He was on a Head Starter space talking about what VR Jam is doing, and I'm going to get them on for an interview next week as well. And we're going to welcome back Rob for Shark Bites. So if you have any questions for Rob around the HBAR economy or the Hedera ecosystem, drop those down in the comments. That's pretty much all we have. We'll see you next week.